the 14th century. It's not typically thought of as a good time to be alive. Plague, war, famine. It's been sort of treated as a period of crisis and decline. Despite that, there's a greater hunger for books than ever before. And despite the constraints of manuscript production, especially that you have to copy these things by hand, you get this growth in book production that can be seen in a number of different spheres. The 14th and 15th centuries, when you think about it in the history of, say, media, is a period of enormous energy and growth and change and adaptation. It's still such a fascinating period in so many ways that resembles our own world, but that is also other, that is different from ours. I loved that otherness. A lot of the students who take my classes also love the distance of the things that they study. I didn't set about to study the history of media. I was studying a 15th century theologian, Jean Gerson, who was a writer at the University of Paris. He was a hugely popular, famous public intellectual. He was, in fact, thinking about reaching audiences, thinking about using the media of his day in a way that we think of using blogs as opposed to just traditional books and articles. So he's a good kind of illustration of this great surge of manuscript production in terms of the history of the book. Supply and demand is a good model to use when thinking about the growth in writing in the late Middle Ages. We see, for instance, the introduction of paper replacing parchment. Paper is actually easier to write on. The quill moves more swiftly across the page, and so scribes could actually write more quickly. Another thing that was changing in this period was growth in literacy. It's no longer primarily a monastic audience. It's also no longer, as it was in the 13th century, a primarily scholastic audience. Now we've got all those and many others, including a lay audience. And we see that, in fact, print was simply a technological response to this huge surge of demand. It's not just a bolt out of the blue. In fact, it's the technology that's responding to a deep cultural shift. A lot of the innovations in late medieval books came from scribes who, over the course of the 12th and 13th centuries, were adding things like subheadings or indexes or other tools that allowed readers to use books more intelligently. And they understood, one of the things that they understood is actually that readers read selectively, just as we do today. We don't read every book from beginning to end. So these changes are material changes, and they affect the layout and the look of the late medieval book, but they're also intellectual changes in a way, because they're changing how people grasp, how people approach, how people look at the book and the page. The late Middle Ages are a gold mine, virgin territory for graduate students who are looking for new things to study. There really are things to discover about the Middle Ages. That's one of the great things about studying the Middle Ages. There are new texts coming to light all the time, so it's a great field to work in.